Ever since he can remember, Li Ping has been very envious of Sun Wukong in Journey to the West. He can go to the sky and enter the earth with 7 Taituo transformations. From time to time, he fantasizes that he can go to the sky and enter the earth like an immortal. When he grew up, Naruto, Shinigami and other animations made him yearn for supernatural powers such as chakra and spiritual power, and he always fantasized about having his own Zanpakuto. When he was in junior high school, Li Ping accidentally read a sentence. In the school post bar, the man said so. If, behind every movie and TV series we see, there is a real world that provides inspiration to the author, then this world without any supernatural power is probably the most boring world in the universe. At that time, Li Ping was deeply convinced. How interesting the world would be if it had that wonderful ability. Then when he was 14 years old, the world changed. His dream came true, and the nightmare came. In that year, 12 human beings who were like gods returned to Earth. They called themselves reincarnations, won the final battle of the endless reincarnation world, and returned to their hometown. Then, people on Earth know that it's not that there are no gods and demons in this world, but that people simply don't bother to care about you. Then these 12 people beat up the demon gods with names and surnames, and after the demon gods left the cultivation system, the reincarnators rebuilt the main space on Earth. The period between the reappearance of the gods and Buddhas in the gods and the rebuilding of the main space is that hell-like year. The appearance of supernatural power has caused some people to lose their balance in an instant. Words such as Son of God and Superior Man emerged from their mouths. Then he deceives the world, steals fame, seeks wealth, kills people, and commits all kinds of evil. But that doesn't matter, because the new order was quickly re-established after the 12 returned from beating up. The squatters who should squat should be expedited, and the rest should go to work and go to school. It's just that, everyone will be thrown into the battlefield of the reincarnators on June 7 of their 18th year. After 10 single-player missions, the main assists in awakening the individual's ability, or personality. Because there are so many types of superpowers acquired by human beings, and superpowers are all extracted from a part of this person's characteristics to strengthen, simply, this superpower acquired after 10 initial worlds is called personality. In the next year after the end of the initial world, after a total of 12 team tasks once a month, the main system will determine whether the individual's comprehensive abilities, such as psychological quality, personality defects, etc., are suitable for continuing tasks in the reincarnation world. If you pass, then continue. Plunder resources, knowledge, and talent across many planes. If they are unqualified, they will be deprived of the identity of the samsara, keep the strengthened part of the personal body and the memory in the reincarnation world, deprive the supernatural power, and return to the normal life of social animals. Of course, the premise is that you have to survive the last 12 missions. The main rebuilt by the 12 reincarnators only protects the novice who provides 10 single-player missions, and the last 12 missions are based on their abilities. I don't know if it's good luck or bad luck, but Li Ping's parents have survived the first 12 worlds where the mortality rate was close to 30% by relying on the background of 2 ordinary employees from ordinary families. He survived 36 more missions after that. He is one of the most well-deserved senior reincarnations in the world. Although they are still in front of their own staff, the income of the 2 is much more than before. There are 2 parents. Li Ping's father likes to read novels since he was a child, especially historical novels and martial arts novels. His 10 initial worlds are Romance of the Three Kingdoms, the enhanced version of Romance of the Three Kingdoms, the Warriors of the Warring States, the mythical version of Romance of Sui and Tang dynasties, the prequel of Feng Shenbang and Jin Yang's novel Skewers. It allowed Li Ping's father to learn the marksmanship that can be called the enemy of 10,000 people, as well as the thick-backed machete that has been tempered for a long time. It's just that the big bad luck didn't keep up with the small bad luck. After Li Ping grew up, when Li Ping's father and Li Ping were drinking nonsense, they learned that people who use spears still have such a saying, the world's spearmen have 1 stone in luck, Zhao Zilong has 12 fights alone, and the rest 02 fights. And Li Ping's mother, Wen Qing, Republican control, hidden angry youth, and history lover. After a series of weird experiences in Kaiyang Yao TV series, I got the ability to be called by Li Ping's mother to write you to death. By setting a series of plots in advance, she induces the protagonist in her story to do what she wants her to do. Later, when my son Amway watched Death Note, I began to feel that my ability was a bit powerful. You must know that Li Ping's mother felt that this ability was quite tasteless at the beginning, and she basically completed her tasks with good marksmanship, modern guns, and good archery. Later, after absorbing some ideas from the movie animation, I began to work hard to use abilities instead of various long-range shooting mission targets. In this regard, Li Ping's father, who inexplicably started to wash dishes and cook at a certain time, always felt that something was not right. After passing 10 initial missions and 12 team missions, after Li Ping's parents officially became reincarnators, the two exchanged a lot of money in the real world through precious metals or special resources obtained in other worlds. The life of a family of 3 is much better than before. Li Ping's life after the age of 14 was no different from his life before the age of 14, except that after entering high school, the things he learned changed from cultural classes to countless strange practical skills classes mixed with a little cultural class. In the 3rd year after the rule of entering the reincarnation world to fight at the age of 18 was determined, the high school curriculum all over the world underwent a thorough reform. In addition to 1 or 2 hours a day as a relaxing cultural class, directional blasting, survival in the wild, basic cold weapon skills, introduction to magic, introduction to immortality, 15 tips for contacting gods, introduction to contract loophole troubleshooting, mental defense introduction, basic fighting skills, gun maintenance skills, ballistics, introduction to IDE manufacturing, introduction to psychological warfare, introduction to public opinion warfare, language skills, tactical sign language, individual soldier combat skills, etc. A lot of courses that senior reincarnators think are useful are packed into high school courses. Only in order to maximize the knowledge retention of children, let them in the 10 initial worlds, according to this knowledge, get the greatest practical experience from the initial world, so as to integrate this knowledge. Maximize the children's survival rate for the 12 mandatory team assignments in the year of 19. Last year's experience showed that after compulsory learning of various practical knowledge in high school, the survival rate of the 12 compulsory missions at the age of 19 increased from less than 68% at the beginning to 79%. UU reading www.uuganshu.com this year, it is expected to increase to 85%. In the evening, after Li Ping had dinner at home, he sat on the sofa uneasily, holding the green tea that was basically cold, and stared blankly at the TV. On the TV, there is a picture of the reporter interviewing the parents of the students who will enter the world of reincarnation for the first time tonight. Son, don't worry too much. The first 10 worlds are protected by novices. Even if you die, you are only forced to teleport back. All you need is to go in and practice what you have learned in the past 2 years. Li Ping's father sat down on the left of Li Ping. Yes, according to your previous hobbies, there is a high probability of animation, military, and sci-fi worlds. Just go in and feel the atmosphere there. Li Ping's mother sat on Li Ping's right. That's right, brother, don't be nervous. The first time you enter, you just need to feel the atmosphere. The most important thing in the first world is to let you know what it's like to perform the mission of the Lord God. Then you need to think about how to perform the mission and clear the world. Cousin Li Fan, who was a year older than Li Ping, sat opposite Li Ping. Behind the sofa, beside the dining table, and on the floor sat a whole family of 20 people, old and young, all of them watching with concern at Li Ping, who was on the eve of the college entrance examination for 3 minutes. I'm not nervous. Li Ping came back to his senses. I'm just thinking about what girls in the animation world will look like. Uer Erniang, typed correctly, weren't you a game character at the time? Did you know that if you saw her? Li Ping's father touched his son's forehead. Isn't he nervous and stupid? Li Ping looked back at his second uncle, who inexplicably covered his waist and smiled bitterly in cold sweat. Sitting beside him was a blue-skinned woman, Li Ping's error Niang, Emily Lakova. Of course she also has a nickname, Widowmaker. The last thing, brother. Li Ping's eyes shifted to his elder brother who had lost both eyes and an arm. The top 10 worlds must absolutely never be associated with any gods, saints, priests, shamans, priests and the like. The big brother looked at Li Ping with empty eyes. If you are targeted by the devil, you will die miserably. When Li Ping was so frightened that he was dripping with cold sweat and couldn't stop nodding, Li Ping's parents rolled their eyes from an angle that Li Ping couldn't see. I remember. The big brother nodded. Calm. A buff fell from the sky. Li Ping's mood was instantly adjusted to a state of absolute calmness without joy or sorrow. No, it's too far. Another halo fell from the sky, and Li Ping's mood returned to normal. Okay, that's right. The big brother nodded in satisfaction. Son, enjoy your first journey. Son, remember to bring your mother a daughter-in-law back. Hey? Before Li Ping finished speaking, he was sucked away by the space crack that appeared out of thin air. Xiao Jian. Little ant, you agreed not to call me that. Big brother's indifferent expression disappeared in an instant, and his amusing temperament was natural. I remember that you were injured because you simultaneously provoked the demon saint, the goddess of the gods, the high priest of the magic church, the goddess of light disguised as men, the half-orc female shaman, the 7 goddesses, the 3 after being a female demon. She was chased and killed because she was exposed, right? Li Ping's mother pulled the corners of her mouth and looked super miserable, but in fact she deserved it, the son of Li Ping's father's eldest brother who was only 1 year younger than him. Wouldn't your conscience hurt to use this to scare your brother? My heart has long been poached by Serena, okay? Big brother Li Jian spread his hands, and the shameless smell could waft 3 miles against the wind. Forget you, this guy is a conscientious thing now. Li Ping's mother slapped her head. Li Jian's last world is still the world where he kills and seduces himself, and his heart is taken out by a certain succubus sister now. I had to convert myself into a half-elemental creature to survive. On the other side, Li Ping also arrived in the world of his first reincarnation. Li Ping opened his eyes and looked at his surroundings. Metal walls, but nothing too sci-fi, it should be modern society, on a ship. Li Ping checked the equipment in the room. The reincarnator LIP-6666, commonly known as Li Ping. You have arrived in the world of reincarnation and are ready to receive the set memory. A mechanized female voice suddenly sounded in Li Ping's mind. It was very nice and ethereal. Set memory transfer begins. The sudden flood of memories made Li Ping unconscious on the spot, and he fell onto the bed in a daze. After a long time, Li Ping woke up leisurely. Ah, it hurts. Li Ping rubbed his head and got up from the bed again. The 8th Fleet of the Atlantic Federation Space Force, the 2nd Lieutenant of the Marine Corps, the security personnel for the development of classified weapons, the Highly Polis, the Archangel, the X-Series. Li Ping passed the key memory nodes that the system instilled in him one by one. Gundam Seed. The personal attribute system is starting, please wait. A few seconds later, a translucent light curtain appeared in front of Li Ping. Name, Li Ping. Age, 18 years old. Level, LV1 race, human, natural person. Attributes, HP, 100/100 MP, 100/100 mental strength, 100/100 strength 12 speed 11 spirit 10 intelligence 9 reaction 11 physique 13 occupation, not enabled skill, not enabled comprehensive evaluation, an average person who has undergone good physical training. Li Ping quickly browsed through this piece of information. No surprises. Li Ping clicked on the mission information and began to read it. Mission World, Gundam Seed. This mission is a single-player novice mission. The reincarnator has novice protection, and when he dies, he will be forced to be teleported back to the real world. After completing the 3 main missions, you can get 1000 basic points returned to the real world and open the points store. 10 single-player novice worlds are chosen by the main according to the characteristics of the reincarnator. After the novice task is over, the main will help build the ability of the reincarnator according to the performance and characteristics of the reincarnator. Please show your characteristics as much as possible. Main Quest 1, survive 48 hours. Main Quest 2, not opened. Main Quest 3, not opened. Side quests, unlocked. Temporary setting. Memory synchronization is completed, language synchronization translation is completed, reincarnation, good luck. Hey? And a third page? Mission reminder, there are still 2 hours, 55 minutes, and 29 seconds before ZFAT attacks Heliopolis. It's only 3 hours. Hey! Li Ping put on the standard combat equipment of the Atlantic Federation Space Marine Corps and left the room. There are still 2 hours before the shift time, take advantage of the time now to make some arrangements. Lieutenant Li. An officer floated over behind Li Ping. Where are you going fully armed? Major Inu, I don't know why I feel a little uneasy. I want to go out to get some air first. Li Ping stood at attention in midair and saluted according to the actions he remembered. Is that so? That's a lot of trouble. This ship carries the hope of our coalition's victory. Yes. Walking out of the dock area, Li Ping checked the terrain according to the Heliopolis structure map in his hand, and assessed the possible direction of the ZAFT Army MS. It should be this way. Li Ping evaluated the location of the ZAFT Army MS based on the animation in his mind and what he was seeing now. Then put the anti-MS mines applied from the arsenal on the lawn that ZAFT Army MSS stepped on in the animation. After working for more than an hour, he hurriedly arranged a few IDE, improvised explosive devices, and anti-MS mines. Li Ping went to find the person who changed his guard according to his memory. Lieutenant Li Ping, come to change the guard. Warrant Officer Allure, leave your post. Holding an assault rifle and carrying an anti-MS rocket launcher, Li Ping started patrolling under the strange eyes of his subordinates. By the way, the 4 anti-aircraft missile launch vehicles were arranged behind the high-rise buildings that were likely to be invisible if they flew from a certain direction. This should be able to delay it for a while. Li Ping looked at the countdown with only 25 minutes left in the upper right corner of his field of vision. UU reading www.uuganshu.com. Second Lieutenant, why are you fully armed again? Captain Mariah Ramias in a worker's uniform came over. Has this second lieutenant, who was too cautious on a daily basis, started to get nervous again? Captain Ramias thought helplessly, but his caution has saved him several times. It seems that he should be more vigilant. But this is a neutral country, so ZAFT can't call over, right? I feel that ZAFT may call today. Li Ping said solemnly, fortunately, this identity has an overly cautious setting, otherwise it would be difficult to explain. I woke up today with a tingling scalp, which saved me from being beaten several times as a child. Relax, Lieutenant, this is a neutral country, ZAFT will not call. Captain Ramias waved his hand with a smile. Captain, this neutral country has already produced new mobile suits and new warships for our coalition army, so it seems that it is not impossible for ZAFT to call. Captain Ramias, start the material assembly of the Archangel immediately. 2 ZAFT battleships have arrived outside Heliopolis. A middle-aged man's voice came from Captain Ramias' walkie-talkie. Haha. Li Ping twitched the corners of his mouth. All staff prepare for battle, raise the alarm, and prepare for battle against MS. Suppose the enemy invades from the direction of the port, and armed vehicles that can threaten MS go to the back of the building. Li Ping started shouting, according to what he learned in high school, and this set the combat experience in memory and find a sniper position with a good line of sight. He set up his rifle and searched the surrounding mountains for ZAFT's infiltrating troops. "Where are you, baby?" "Captain Ramirez, load the airframe and supplies as soon as possible, we will delay as much as possible." Li Ping sent Captain Ramirez a message. "I see, you guys take care." "Damn, I still want to board the Archangel. I don't have any thoughts of dying in the line of duty, okay?" While looking for ZAFT's infiltration team, Li Ping silently complained. "The enemy is in contact with the enemy is in the N37 area, on the platform next to the shelter on the mountain side, ZAFT Commando, 5 squads. The refuge in the N37 area, isn't this right above?" Li Ping and the current Joint Military Material Distribution Center are in the satellite S37 factory area, and the N37 area is directly above Li Ping, on the other side of the cylindrical colony satellite. "All squads pay attention, as soon as the enemy enters the range, they can fire freely." Boom! Earthquake? No, is it an explosion? The ground shook. What happened? "Captain Ramirez, communication with the dock is cut off." "What's going on?" "Forget it, dispatch the liaison personnel, immediately. Speed up the supply operation, let the pilots go, and the series are all activated." Captain Ramirez got up from the ground. "Lieutenant Li, what did you find there?" "The situation is not good, ZAFT elite troops, 5 commandos teams, 5 red-shirted team members, do you have any clues for the captain?" Li Ping's sniper rifle has been aiming at the blonde adjuster in a red combat spacesuit, who seems to be called Rusty. 5 red shirts. Captain Ramirez naturally understood the meaning of red shirts in the ZAFT army. "It's really not good, what about the communication with the port?" "Because of electromagnetic interference, communication was cut off." "It sucks, you guys come with me, give priority to securing 105 and 303, build a defense line near the remaining airframes, and give priority to transport, I'll go, get down." Captain Ramirez flew with his subordinates next to him. Throwing on the ground, dodged the 76mm machine gun fire of ZAFT Army MS Jean, Kim. "Prioritize the transportation of materials close to the port and those that have been loaded, hurry up. Come with me." Captain Ramirez led a few of his immediate subordinates and dragged 2 scared ace drivers to the parking lot. "There are 2 MS mines left." "Steady, steady, the infantrymen follow the order to fire, the missile vehicles are on standby, don't rush out, and for the MS missile soldiers, stand by in the building." The tactical computer on the arm showed that during the strafing of the 2 MSS that flew over just now, apart from Captain Ramirez, the only second lieutenant left at the scene had the highest rank. "Shit, isn't this a fool?" Half kneeling on the roof, Li Ping aimed at the ZFAT commando flying down from above. "Infantry, free fire, free fire. Da-da-da da-da-da." Coalition soldiers leaned out from various bunkers to shoot. On the spot, 3 hard-working soldiers in green clothes were beaten to death and fell in circles in the sky. The remaining soldiers adjusted their posture and landed while shooting. Suddenly, 2 red-clothed soldiers flew to the mining area with 2 teams of soldiers. Fuck, only so many people dare to divide the army. Li Ping only felt that his blood was running high. "You look down on us. People really dare." Li Ping hurriedly fired a few shots, and after killing another green-clothed man, he ran away in embarrassment to find a new shooting location. The AI in the headset is constantly playing the death toll. From the exchange of fire to the present, more than 40 Marines and more than 200 armed workers who survived the MS shelling were killed at a rate of 3 to 5 per second. "Damn it, are these adjusters hanging up?" Li Ping hid behind a concrete pillar in a building panting. Raising the gun, glanced at the enemy with the camera integrated in the scope. "Fuck, drivers are dead? No way. The MS carrier is too far to run past. The MS carriers were concentrated on the viaduct nearly a kilometer away. Dong, dong, dong. A Jean shot and landed in front of the tall building where Li Ping was hiding. Don't blame me, natural man, this is war. Jean raised his rifle, pointing to Li Ping hiding behind a weighing column on the second floor. Flower Q. Li Ping ran away, detonating the IDE downstairs through the individual tactical computer on his arm. Boom. What? Jean was so blown up that the soles of his feet were damaged, and he slowly fell down. Stupid. Li Ping started a military motorcycle and rushed towards the mining area. That natural person. Another Jean put away his rifle and pulled out his long sword, wanting to use MS's long sword to hack Li Ping to death to vent his comrades. Whoosh whoosh. After one of the surviving missile vehicles fired all 8 laser-induced missiles from behind the Jin, the crew drove the auto lock, abandoned the vehicle and ran away. Be careful behind your back. What? Boom. Boom. Jean dodged 6 missiles and was blown off half of his wings by the remaining 2. The control system doesn't respond. Damn. Michelle, my body is broken, let's go first. You go first, I will be responsible for recycling the body. Sorry. The green-clothed driver ran out of the cockpit and flew to the hands of Sun Li, who slowly stood up from the carrier. It's ok, you guys go first, to ensure that the body is the first priority. It is good. Santai was originally a coalition army, and now the Gundam that belongs to ZFAT slowly rose and retreated along the route of Jean's raid as much as possible. It's so miserable. Li Ping rushed into the mining area on a motorcycle. There are still gunshots, it's not too late. Parking the motorcycle at a fork in the road, Li Ping cautiously ran along the wall to the place where the remaining 2 machines were stored in the mining area. Dong 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 dong. So familiar gunshots. Really? Li Ping stuck his head out and glanced at it, and found that the ZAFT Army assault team originally had 24 people, but now there are only 9 people left, 2 in red and 7 in green. These 9 people were suppressed by the 3 guns that sounded like M2HB, and those who looked like M2HB were probably suppressed by M2HB heavy machine guns. Captain Ramirez, are you still alive? Li Ping switched to VHF communication for close range. Lieutenant Li? Why are you here? What's going on outside? The outside was lost, and 3 GS were taken away. It seems that Yuyukanshu www.yuyuganshu.com injured 2 MSS. No matter what, keep these 2. I know, I'll flank from your right, don't. Son. Li Ping ran behind the bunker. Mom's correspondence was eavesdropped. Li Ping raised his assault rifle behind the bunker, put down the monocular monitor in his left eye, and aimed and shot with the camera. Da-da-day. Da-da-day. A few short bursts, killing 2 green suits. Came from behind. Be careful behind your back, there's only 1 door left there, but Li Ping didn't hear it, he was concentrating on sniping the green-clothed ones. Li Ping also tried to target the 2 red clothes to attack, but the 2 of them acted like the protagonist's halo, so they couldn't hit. Li Ping complained while changing the clips. Rusty. Asshole. Hamana. Change the magazine and stick your head out. Man, ZAFT people are dead. Li Ping flew to the carrier vehicle that was rushing towards the X-303 Sacred Shield. At this time, the ammunition stored in the mining area had been detonated by stray bullets and began to burn and explode. Open the cockpit and look back in the direction of the X-105 attack. Captain Ramirez slammed a young boy into the cockpit of the Raider, while the ZAFT red-clothed who was still alive dropped his dagger and flew in the direction of the Holy Shield. Li Ping got into the cockpit and took out a taser. ZAFT's remaining red-clothed, another male protagonist, Aslan Sarah looked at the coalition soldier who was sitting in the cockpit with a taser pointed at him with a bewildered expression. Superese motherfucks. What? Binding the corona-stricken second-generation official to the side of the cockpit, Li Ping hurriedly manipulated the holy shield to break free from the fixing frame of the MS carrier, and stood up slowly. On the other side, Stryker also slowly stood up. Captain Ramias. Lieutenant Li, you actually grabbed the body. How can one's belongings be called a robbery? Captain Ramias. Let's get out of here quickly, it's going to explode. Boom. Let's go. The two machines flew out of the mining area along the ceiling blown up by the explosion. The two unactivated machines slowly landed on the ground. The strike controlled by Ermias was staggering forward. Aslan. Jen, whose foot was partially damaged by the blast, flashed one eye and looked at the holy shield, which was slowly falling to the ground. Are you calling this little brother? The holy shield punched Jean's face, who couldn't react, and then shot Jean's head with Bale's cock. Luckily, it killed Jean's own eye. Asshole! Cursing her mother, Jean's movements were not slow at all. He quickly retreated while firing shots to interfere with the movement of the holy shield. Hey! Li Ping breathed a sigh of relief. What kind of ghost operating system is Te Niang's? The programmers who write the OS are hired externally for 3,500 yuan per month, right? NEMA's 50 meter distance from bar is 1 meter? If it weren't for the 75 mm barrel's high explosive fragmentation projectile, which has a killing radius of 1.5 meters, I'm afraid I would have to go back to the city just now. Captain! Hello, Captain! Li Ping looked up at the communication window. Captain Ramias fainted with such a smile. That boy! Please stop the machine and help lift the captain down. I think she may need some emergency treatment. Ah, yes. Kira, Berserker, never hit the cockpit, Super Adjuster, Prince Ob, Speaker's husband, Yamato, who seemed to be feeling pretty well at this stage, carefully adjusted the assault to a half-kneeling position, opened the cockpit. Li Ping also has a good body. Thanks to the MS simulation driving class in high school, he can also drive MS. By the way, the OS programming of humanoid robots is a compulsory course for students who are both anime and military enthusiasts in their second year of high school. The blood and tears of hundreds of reincarnators who once entered the worlds of Seed, UC, W, and 00 told the latecomers that the OS in the early stage of MS was generally rotten to death, and it would not change that the OS would be trapped to death by slow body movements sooner or later. This boy. Bandage Captain Ramias for the bruise on her right shoulder and the penetrating wound on her waist. Li Ping tried to talk to this young boy who was going to be fierce in the future. I see that you seem to have a talent for driving MS, are you interested in joining the Union Army? What? Kira. Not far away, Mirielia and Passerby A and Passerby ran over. I'm sorry, excuse me. The plot has changed, I don't know if it's fun. Li Ping picked up the water bottle he took from the holy shield. I remember. Aslan woke up faintly. No, you don't remember. Li Ping added another kick, knocking Aslan unconscious again. The surrounding shelters are closed. Then what should we do? Hearing their discussion, the corners of Li Ping's mouth curved into a W shape. Mr. Second Lieutenant. Just call me Li Ping or Li. You are not a coalition soldier, so don't worry about these details. Okay, Mr. Li, what should we do? The nearby shelters are closed. Kira had to bite the bullet and come back and ask the eldest-looking man. My suggestion is, if you can control this machine, before we escape from danger, you will drive this machine to help us repel the ZAFT army, and then after the Xeris non-disclosure agreement is invalidated, you can go through the discharge procedures for you, and you can return to the original day. In this way, you can also avoid the condemnation of espionage that you boarded this top-secret MS before. But, when Young man, although I personally sympathize with you, just like manslaughter is also murder, you are obliged to cooperate with us in keeping secrets when you accidentally come into contact with the secret weapons jointly developed by the Union Army and Orb. The young Kira in front of her frowned and thought for a while, then looked back at her classmates, especially Myrielia's face, looking at her, expectant expressions, and soon Kira made up her mind. I see, I will cooperate with you to fight back ZAFT, but you have to ensure our safety. As long as we are alive, we will not give up our protection for you. It's a deal. Ji pulled out. Li Ping was stunned for a moment, and gave Kira a high five to swear. So, what's your name? Kira Yamato. Then, under the guidance of the special wartime regulations, I temporarily recruit Mr. Kira Yamato as a soldier of our army, obey our command, and repel the enemy's attack. Then Kira climbed up the assault Gundam and began to modify the OS. Li Ping arranged for several other boys to drive over the remaining MS equipment supply vehicles nearby, and arranged for girls to take care of the unconscious Captain Ramias. He also climbed up the Holy Shield and started to modify the OS. Boom! The people over there, this is the secret of the Allied Army, UU reading www.uugonshu.com down. Captain over there, we have responded to Lieutenant Li's call and joined the coalition temporarily. I am modifying the OS of this unit now, please don't disturb me, your OS is really bad. +1 second Lieutenant. The enemy will soon launch a second wave of attacks to annihilate us, and we need to unite all forces that can be united. Boom! A big explosion occurred on the central axis of the colony, and a silver MS and a super lanky Ma rushed out of the explosion. Mobius Zero? Is that Higu? Quickly put on your equipment. Quickly! Captain Ramias shouted in the direction of the attack. Kira's friends jumped off the MS, and the truck mounted the cannon assembly on the assault Gundam. I'll take you all right now. After cutting off the Mobius Zero's electromagnetic cannon, Sigu rushed towards the assault Gundam. But before the ruthless words were finished, Zigu was forced to evade by 2 beams. When I don't exist. Divine Shield had already turned on the PS armor, and raised his gun to shoot at Shiju. Che, so annoying. Boom! Inside the colony, a huge explosion occurred. The blasted rocks smashed Sigu's rifle, and the little bit of red light that remained shattered Sigu's left hand and the shield on his left hand directly. Cruiser didn't even want to say harsh words, he turned his head and ran away. The machine guns are gone, and the attack shields are gone. Pointing at a life to fight the battleship? The coalition army is crazy, right? Fire the main gun in the dock? Are you trying to blow yourself up? Cruiser was indignant along the way. It was like playing Go with someone else, because the opponent first connected 5 pieces in a row, and then told you that he won. Addis, prepare the D equipment for attacking the fortress and sink the Earth Army battleship inside. Cruz connected to his mothership's communication. But Captain Addis gave a bitter face. In order to free up space to carry the 5 MSS, our 2 ships only brought 7 MSS in total. Michelle's special machine was severely damaged and had to be repaired at home. The oral machine could not be operated and was left in the colony. Here, Michelle's backup machine is slightly damaged and has been repaired. It is expected to be completed in 2 hours. The Chlor machine was damaged by the Ma and was moderately damaged. If it is urgently handled, it will take about 6 hours to reach the reluctance to attack level. The Faur machine is broken, and it can only be repaired after returning to the country. Only a spare gene can be used in a short time. Cut. Repair the damaged body as soon as possible. In any case, we must gather 3 bodies to dispatch. Cruiser hung up the communication. Could it be that we can only call reinforcements? But Aslan Sarah's Kia is a good card. Mr. Second Lieutenant. The soldier of the ZAFT army you put over there. Kira Deka, who had received too much information at first, suddenly remembered the childhood friend he saw in the warehouse in that mining area. What happened to him? He woke up again? Is the adjuster's physical fitness too good? Li Ping's mind hadn't turned around just after completing the initial configuration of the Aegis OS. It's like jumping off the body to give him 2 feet again. No, he didn't wake up. It's just that I seem to know him. Like. That person seems to be my high school classmate in high school in Copernicus, the city of the moon. The name should be Aslan Sarah. Kira Yamato quickly wrote the ground gyroscopic gravity/cosmic microgravity combat environment for the colony OS. Are you over there? Li Ping got out of the cockpit. Not far away, the Archangel had just landed on the surface. 5 more minutes, I'm writing firewall and anti-intrusion programs. Kira Yamato's hand speed, ordinary people can't see clearly. Please give my body a copy later. Okay. As expected of the strongest rookie, he is like a Doraemon. After the OS is written, take your classmates to the hangar of the Archangel, and leave the personnel to me to deal with it. After getting off the plane, he put the still unconscious Aslan Sarah on the palm of the Holy Shield, drive the Aegis to the Archangel. Lieutenant Li, it's great that you're fine. Second Lieutenant Bucky Lulu, so do you. But I'm the only one left in my Marine Corps. However, you can actually drive MS. It's just a trivial hobby. This is not a trivial hobby. It's just barely able to move, and the rest of the OS adjustment still needs the assistance of the boy. Intuition tells me that the boy can even write the OS of the MS for natural people. After all, I remember that the second lieutenant's home seems to be able to work with the joint. The military has something to say? At that time, the protection of that boy will be up to you. Young man. Second Lieutenant Bucky Lulu blinked. The assault Gundam landed next to the Aegis Gundam with 4 students from Heliopolis and Captain Ramias. That boy is an adjuster who can be won, don't push him to the opposite side. I see. Second Lieutenant Bucky Lulu said he knew. Captain Ramias, I think we need to start the material handling operation as soon as possible. I remember that there is a half-destroyed gene in the factory area over there. It should be repaired and it can still be used. Are there 5 warrant officers? Although it's very uncomfortable, it's true that all the non-commissioned officers below the captain were involved in the explosion at the order station and died. Only the few of us who left the order station and the workers who moved materials in the warehouse survived. Is the highest rank at the scene actually Captain Ramias? By the way, I have verbally recruited him into our coalition army according to the special wartime regulations. Please go and make up the formalities for him later. Okay. Then Second Lieutenant Bucky Lulu stared at Li Ping's mouth. Because he was using a very exaggerated mouth to say, find a way to tie the 5 people to the boat with emotions, don't use threats. Wow! Li Ping looked over with his exclamation, and it was the surviving warrant officers and workers in charge who were sighing at Kira Yamato's youth. Behind them, there are 4 of their own subordinates. Yo, they're all alive, lucky guy. Li Ping greeted the 4 surviving Marines. Second Lieutenant. The 4 surviving Marines returned their salute. What about the others? When I left the factory area and went to the mining area, I was probably the only one alive at the scene. Li Ping shook his head. There is no time for you to grieve, and the ZAFT army is still out there. Yes. Is this the 2 surviving planes? The pilot turned out to be a Marine. A blonde pilot came out from the depths of the hangar. The 7th Mobile Fleet, Captain Mu Laflage, please give me more advice. 2nd Space Region 5th Special Agent Division, Captain Maliu Ramias. Same class, 2nd Lieutenant Natal Baki Lulu. Same genus, Li Ping 2nd Lieutenant. I want to get permission to board the ship. Who is the person in charge of this ship? All the senior officers below the captain died in battle, and the current leader should be Captain Ramias. You read www.yuyuganshu.com. Bucky Lulu replied directly. Captain and the others. It's really a headache, how could such a thing happen? Captain Flag scratched his head. Anyway, give me permission, Captain Ramias. Okay, permission to board the ship. Then what about those people? The boy in black is named Kira Yamato, a student of Highly Polis. I don't know why he appeared in the factory area during the battle. I took him to G, and now he is recruited by Lieutenant Lee, and he agrees with him. The second lieutenant's judgment. After we successfully break through, he will go through the retirement procedures and return to Orb's hometown. I see, but we even let children control our Ms. By the way, I'm guarding the newcomers who are pilots for these machines, how about them? Captain Flag glanced at Kira Moore. They reported to the captain at the decree when the explosion happened, I'm afraid. Really? Anyway, we. Who is that? Wow. Boom. A man in a red combat spacesuit fell out of the Aegis cockpit. If I remember correctly, most of the enemy commandos captured in the battle are the second-generation officials in red. I think I'll do a comparison of identities when I have time, maybe it will be a big news. It hurts. Kira? Kira Yamato. Aslan? Aslan Sarah. Sarah is the chairman of the National Defense Committee, Patrick Sarahs. Hey, boy. Aslan looked at Li Ping subconsciously. Smile. A photo of Aslan lying helplessly on the ground with his hands and feet bound was taken. GS equipment and ammo first. Speed up. The Marines don't care what's on the material carrier, they can pull as much as they can from near to far. Hey! Students over there, why are you back? The colony's alert level has been raised to level 9. All the shelters are blocked, and we can't get in. It's safe to go here. Mirialia replied loudly. Commander Marduk, the paralyzed Keen has been brought back, where should he put it? In the case of water, take it from the factory area. It's now abandoned anyway. Kirakan, the enemy will come at some point, so hurry up and rest. Li Ping and Kira put the captured Keen away. Well, I'll go to rest when I update the firewall of the Holy Shield. Thank you for your hard work. Li Ping turned his head away, not looking at the keyboard that could only see the afterimage. Sharp. Fortunately, does the second lieutenant's OS need to be optimized? Now the OS of Aegis is a bit messy. Can it be done? My research topic at the University of Technology is to use MSOS for natural people, and I already have a draft in my heart. Kira is typing on 2 keyboards at the same time. On the 3 screens, Li Ping swiped the code that Li Ping couldn't understand at all. The battle environment is only set for the space battle for the time being, and the rest of the environment will be set at that time. Oh, it's already been set. Li Ping couldn't even say it. It's not something complicated. Thanks for your hard work. In addition, I have some ideas for the battle in the colony. Kira demonstrated with the information in the cockpit of the Aegis. Strike Gundam, there are now 5 kinds of equipment on the Archangel: air combat equipment, artillery equipment, sword equipment, underwater combat equipment and lightning equipment. The underwater combat equipment does not seem to be useful in the universe, so it will not be considered for the time being. In artillery combat, the shoulders of the sword suit have attached arms, which do not conflict with the air combat equipment, and can be equipped with the air combat equipment at the same time. I think that large shield can be used on both hands, so it should be able to be equipped at the same time. Can the rocket hook of the sword be integrated into the arm of the strike Gundam? I'm just a squadron commander of the Marine Corps. I'm afraid you're not embarrassing me by asking me this. Li Ping scratched his head. Commander Marduk. Are you free? No. Busy. It's all messed up now. Then let's talk about it in a while. Well, you can try the operation of the Holy Shield. If you can, I will go to rest. Kira and Li Ping looked at each other and smiled. Oh, I'll try. Kira gave Li Ping the driver's seat. Awesome. Li Ping tried the new OS with simulated operations. Stop here for a while. Kira stopped Li Ping, took the keyboard and changed a few parameters. Try again. Operated the body, and redoed the movements just now, and sure enough, the slight jerky feeling just now disappeared. If the adjusters were all of your specifications, I'm afraid the coalition would have been defeated long ago. Li Ping sighed. Isn't this a normal operation? Kira stopped fine-tuning the OS. It's not like I haven't seen an adjuster. You are the first to be able to rewrite the OS of an elite MS in such a short period of time. In Li Ping's memory of the setting, there is still a part of what he saw in the Eurasian Federation. There are a large number of adjusters working in various institutions. The only people who really hated the adjusters were those in the Atlantic Federation. As for the average adjuster, the gap between the average natural person and Kira Yamato is probably like this. Natural person adjuster Kira Yamato rewriting the OS in 5 minutes is not something that people can do at all, right? By the way, Kira-kun, there is one thing I want to ask you. Is there anything else? When fighting for a while, try not to use shooting weapons for a period of time, and use shields to block the enemy's shooting. Use bail to intercept enemy missiles more often. Why? In the war of public opinion, the cosmic countries don't pay attention to protecting the colonies, but the coalition army is trying to protect the colony's image. Can it be done? However, all of this is based on the premise of your survival. Do you understand? Understood, I will look for opportunities. After debugging the Aegis, Kira and Li Ping left separately. Name: Alex Soran. Well, Aslan Sarah. Gender: you don't know how to read it. Aslan also understood, most of the people in front of him came after he had done his own identity verification. Opposite, Captain Flag and Li Ping pretended to be entering data. You're embarrassing us, Mr. Sarah. In principle, you should be treated as an ordinary prisoner of war, but your father's status makes us embarrassed. Captain Flag leaned on the back and put his hands on his chest. But what's even more difficult is that, according to the information, Chairman Sarah already has an irreconcilable hatred for the United Nations and natural persons, and it's not bad to die like your son. Li Ping also imitated Captain Flag's posture. So, although you are of great political value, it doesn't seem to be that high. So, you're embarrassing us, Mr. Sarah. It seems that you can only be used as the object of the sacrificial flag by handing you over to the Union Army headquarters. Li Ping and Captain Flag sang and frightened Aslan into a wet wolf. After all, this is the first time to go to the battlefield, and Aslan is still very tender now. I think I still have a role to play. It's such a coincidence, we think so too. The two opposite Aslan nodded in agreement at the same time. So, Mr. Aslan Sarah, for your personal safety, and for the extreme emotions of Chairman Sarah to not intensify, we have one and only one plan. You need to sacrifice your personal a little bit. Image, but there will be absolutely no personal injury. Li Ping said with a smile. Second Lieutenant Li Ping, Captain Flag, and Captain Ramias, please go to the bridge immediately. Have you come already? The two looked up at the ceiling, as if they could see the incoming ZAFT army. Let's go. Hey! What's the plan? You said it. Aslan struggled to stand up. Let's talk after this battle. The two ignored Aslan, who had a tangled face. Gene 3 machines, A&D. X-102 Dual, X-103 Storm. That's heavy bombing equipment for the fortress. Do they want to use it in the colony? Captain Flag looked at the captured image, his face turning green. Master Maddock, are there any Thunderbolt shields in the recovered materials? Li Ping sat in the cockpit of the Holy Shield. Yes, but if equipped, the transformation mechanism of the Holy Shield. In the colony, there is no need for a deformation mechanism at all. Multiple shields and multiple lives. I see, Kirakan, what equipment do you want? Can the air combat backpack, the shoulder armor of the gun and sword, and the rocket claw be installed on the right hand? No problem. Change your assault equipment, hurry up. Here is the holy shield. Talk to the bridge. Those two planes are here. There's no reason why Thunderbolt won't come. Be careful of Thunderbolt's Mirage system. Learn. Kira Yamato, OK. Li Ping, the Holy Shield Gundam, leave the ship. After the two aircraft ejected the Archangel one after another, the Archangel took off. Hearing Amuro's famous words coming out of Kira Daihi's mouth, Li Ping had mixed feelings. Especially the intense pain in the egg. It turned out that there was only a holy shield for paddling water. Now why are all the others except the holy shield coming? Where did Saint Shield go? Oh, the holy shield is in his hands. The whole ship is ready for battle, the isolation gate is blocked, the CIWS is activated, the automatic strafing mode, the stern missile launch tube, the full tube Corinth is loaded, and the laser is induced to synchronize. The Hell Dart missile is ready to launch, waiting for the command to launch. Second Lieutenant Bucky Lulu, physical bullets are ineffective against PS armor, the main gun laser is linked, and the focus spreads. Captain Ramius turned back and shouted to Second Lieutenant Bucky Lulu in the CIC. After hearing this, everyone's back teeth were sore. Live ammunition is ineffective, are you going to bombard the colony with a main beam of light? After taking a look at the description of the main beam gun of the Archangel, the effective range of the main gun of this ship can even be only 400 meters. The power of a high-energy particle beam 500 meters away is not even greater than that of a high-power microwave oven. But there is an advantage. The excessively diffused main gun beam will be particularly thick. At least, the matter of using the main cannon to hit the MS has changed from hitting mosquitoes with a cannon to a shotgun hitting mosquitoes. Boom! Two large-scale attack missiles hit the transparent part of the outer wall of the colony, blasting two large holes nearly 100 meters long. Chairman Newman, can the Archangel fly out of that big hole? Captain Ramius looked thoughtfully at the two big holes that were blown open and gradually connected to the city. Almost, it will take another half an hour by visual inspection. Newman also saw the big hole that was gradually expanding. After all, it is a transparent frame structure made of high-strength composite glass for daylighting. After being damaged by external force, without damage control, the hole will only get bigger and bigger. Has the video evidence just now been recorded? It has been recorded. Very good. There are 5 planes on the surface, maybe there is another plane in the dark? It's not easy to deal with. But Captain Flag, why are you in the CIC? Shouldn't you be the pilot? Captain Ramius stared at the gradual approaching enemy MS group. Me? I'm just an MA pilot. Well, I can't use the OS they both use. You can't use Lieutenant Lee's? Isn't he also a natural person? It's not that it can't be used in this sense, but the OS of that Aegis has been modified for Lieutenant Lee, not a general OS. These small adjustments in this kind of battle are enough to kill me. I see. However, Lieutenant Lee said that after he went out, let that kid make me an OS that I can use. He is more interested in Ma. Strange people. Ma. Enemy aircraft, invaded the colony. The attack begins, Goldfield, fire. The two 225 cm high-energy beam cannons on the Archangel fired first. Well, you read that right, this thing is 225 cm, more than 2 meters in diameter. Boom! After a gene's lower body disappeared on the spot, the fuel in the out-of-control gene was detonated. What is puzzling is that the 4 large, 4 small, and 8 missiles in the composite missile launcher in his hand were instantly launched, and after crossing a large circle, they hit the central axis of the colony one after another. Hey! Are they ZAFT here to demolish the colony or to attack us? Li Ping took a measurement. The diameter of the central axis is more than 100 meters, and the diameter of the entire colony's interior space is about 10 kilometers. At that distance, you have to aim at the central axis. Aim for a while? Or do you keep hanging on the lock on the bottom bracket? I can't do any more damage to the colony, Kira said, while operating the strike to increase the thrust, rushing towards ZAFT's MS group. ZAFT's MS group is divided into two teams, one with a beam cannon and a duel to face the two attacking machines. Kirakin. Although I know it's too much, Jean cuts it casually, and G tries to catch it alive. Why? The four MSS staggered past, and then they all turned around quickly. I checked the information, and the ZAFT red shirt at the same time as Aslan, and the same team as Aslan. There are a total of 5 people, 4 of which are the second generation of ZAFT officials. And they are the kind of people who can control ZAFT and united the second generation of the kind of bosses that the war is heading for. Hey! Kira blocked a beam of Jean's beam, her face messy. Aslan Sarah, the son of the National Defense Commissioner, whose mother was confirmed dead on Bloody Valentine's Day. Li Ping dodged the dual beam, returned the 2 beams with his backhand, and then lit the beam saber in his arm with his left hand. Enter combat. Itzhak Juer, son of Senator Azaria Juer, suspected of Oedipus. Senator Azaria Juer is the main battle faction, the director of the munitions factory. Aslan is the son of the National Defense Commissioner? What does that Oedipus mean? It's still the daughter of the current speaker, Lux Klein's fiancé. I don't know what happened to the suspected Oedipus. Will the Joint Intelligence Officer be too boring? The lightsaber blocked the lightsaber of the Holy Shield. Nicole Amalfi, male looks female, suspected of admiring Aslan. His father Amalfi Senator is a big tech tyrant, a moderate, but he made things like neutron jammers and MS. Hey! Kira was distracted and knocked off Jean's arm with a rifle. UU reading www.uuganshu.com originally aimed at the chest. What is that admiration? Isn't it a gender man? But he's beautiful. Divine Shield used the original shield in his left hand to hold the duel's lightsaber, and the Thunderbolt shield in his right hand aimed at the duel's legs and shot. 3 bursts, but will destroy the solace of the duel. Cut, you hide so fast. Is it okay to look good? The strike dragged a long trajectory, dodging more than a dozen Zen's beam cannons. Jen's beam cannon blew up the colony's ground and destroyed 2 huge cables connecting the ground to the central axis. Running around. Michel, who was driving Jean with a broken hand, was furious. He was regarded as one of the few green-clothed people who could own a special machine, as well as the magic bullet of dusk. The title is because of the super high shooting accuracy in the battle. The slow muzzle velocity of the 76mm assault gun can hit a close to 30% hit rate against the maw of the United Army. Not in. This time, I took the beam cannon on purpose. Didn't you say that as long as you look good, there's no problem? The Holy Shield made a sudden stop and rose rapidly, dodging the dual shot. This kind of thing. Kira threw the rifle in a mess, took out the beam boomerang from his left shoulder with his right hand, and threw it out. He accelerated and retrieved the rifle. Jean dodged the boomerang and locked the assault when he picked up the gun. Successful. Ding! The boomerang that flew back cut off Jean's right leg, and Michelle was shocked. What? The moment the boomerang hit Jean's thigh, the impact made Jean lean back. Kira took the gun and aimed it at Jean's chest. Kira frowned and turned to lock on Jean's 3 limbs. The beam rifle fired 3 shots in a row, and after 3 shots, a Jean stick floated in the air. Who the is sitting on that white Union Army MS? Aslan watched in shock at the CCTV on the wall in a single officer's bedroom. The adjuster, or the one my dad spent a lot of money on doing a lot of optimizations, can be called a hero adjuster among adjusters. Even if the MS of the combined army is much stronger than the MS of the ZAFT army. No, it is insane and illogical that the MS of the combined army is stronger than the MS of the ZAFT army. Right now, the battle of the red machine outside is quite normal. It is a battle between the elite recruits of natural people and the elite recruits of ZAFT. I and others are just students who have received MS training and have just graduated from the military academy. Although the fact that a natural person can open MS is quite shocking, but there is nothing wrong with a freak in such a large population base of the Earth Army. Although the performance of the body is excellent, the pilot's strength is limited and nothing can be seen. But what is that white machine, and now that machine is like, how should I put it, in general, it is like Japan and the United States have fought. The Zero World War 21 beat the American F-2A fighters like grandchildren, and the Americans have come to a painful conclusion. It took more than half a year to think about the M4 Sherman with a jet engine. And from a technical point of view, the driver of this cargo seems to be Eric Hartman, who has not yet grown up. Not only is the body thief hard to beat, but the firepower is so strong that it will kill the opposite side. Although the technology is immature, the proficiency is rising faster than Michel Aymon. If it wasn't for the failure of the graduation exam, a proper red-clothed elite, who participated in the war for only half a year, has hundreds of shot downs, has a unique color scheme, an official nickname and a special costume of Jean top-notch ace. Just being abused like this. Byukira bypassed a bit and fired a fourth shot, blowing up Jean's propelling backpack. This bastard, is he looking down on me? Michel angrily smashed the screen on the side of the cockpit. Michel, what's the matter with you? The Jean pilot who was besieging the Archangel was distracted when he heard the warning of the crash of the friendly aircraft, and was caught by Captain Flagg, who was operating the Archangel's main gun, got field. Taking the opportunity, he bombed the Jean with the main gun. Damn it! Captain Flagg's eyes narrowed. The large anti-fortification missile carried by Jean, who was shot down by the main gun, was not detonated. Instead, it was launched for unknown reasons, hitting the colonies one after another. Axis. The central shaft has been partially broken, and arcs are constantly flashing, and individual cabins have also exploded due to the twisting of the central shaft. Why are you here to demolish the colony? Li Ping didn't care about saving energy, and reflexively used the beam rifle on the attack shield to shoot one after another. Are you also considered space colonists like this? Yitzhak was silent, listening to Li Ping's roar on the public channel, but silently avoiding the holy shield's shooting. There is no way I can refute this, okay? The Earth warship is still the same as new. Instead, the colony of Orb has been bombed by itself. In addition, 3 new aircrafts of Jean and 3 Earth Army, 6 MSS are driven by 1 ace, 2 elite soldiers and 3 elite recruits, and it is impossible to deal with 2 MSS driven by rookies and new battleships where all senior officers are killed in action. It's too embarrassing to say it. Take me this trick. Storm Gundam connected the beam rifle to the rear of the shotgun, and the shotgun muzzle was aimed at the Archangel. Left rudder 75 degrees, inclination 35 degrees, full speed. Captain Ramias, who had been watching the last Storm Gundam entangled in the Archangel, saw that Storm Gundam was going to use high-power shooting, and immediately ordered it. The future god helmsman Newman executed the order without hesitation, and the Archangel narrowly avoided the shelling. However, the colony was not so lucky. A huge cable connecting the central axis and the surface was directly hit, blowing a big hole. Then, the remaining part of the cable could not bear the huge pulling force and was torn off by the ground. Captain Ramias wanted to shout at the CIC people, "No more harm to the colony," but he really didn't take the initiative to cause any harm to the colony. It was all caused by the bombardment of missiles by the ZAFT army. Azimuth X-14, Y-22, Z7, there is a dynamic response, it is suspected to be Thunder Gundam. Bottom CIWS, shooting starts. Force Thunder out. The 475mm CIWS at the bottom of the Archangel fired at the estimated direction, Thunder Gundam exited stealth, activated PS armor, and jumped away quickly. As expected of his own, his weaknesses are clear. Nigel dodged the 75mm shells and looked up at the Archangel. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a disturbing picture. The central axis has been twisted by the surface of the colony because several steel cables were broken and the force was unbalanced. It's Sok. Diaka. The colony can't hold it anymore. The distortion of the central axis became more and more serious. When the entire central axis began to shine with arcs and explosions, the 6 mobile suits and 1 battleship in the colony stopped their fighting tacitly. The colony structure can no longer be maintained, the forced disintegration order is executed, and the shelter is fired. The central axis distortion reached a certain limit, triggering the disintegration order of Helipolis. Decent disintegration, the debris slowly flew out, and then the large colony debris was program-controlledly decelerated by the attitude control engines on the hull, allowing the large debris to stay in orbit in Helipolis. It's better than the whole colony flying out because the body's center of gravity has changed. After the big pieces are welded together, the colony can still be used. What if this thing throws itself to Sydney? Not to mention that the colony is no longer available, and Sydney is no longer available. Cut. Transformed the Holy Shield into the Ma form, urging the maximum thrust to resist the violent airflow caused by the disintegration of the colony, but within a few seconds the Holy Shield was hit by a large piece of overpass. UU reading www.uugonshu.com. It flew out of the colony with the wreckage. On the other hand, Kira subconsciously wanted to return to the Archangel. The attitude control nozzle of the battleship must have stabilized the battleship, right? Then the strong attack was blown away by the main wings of the Archangel waving up and down. It turned out that the attitude control nozzle of the Archangel could not resist such a strong airflow. Michelle, who was sitting in the jean stick, who lost her backpack and limbs and had no spout in her torso, didn't even say her MMP, and fell into a coma because the body kept playing snooker in the wreckage of the extracted colony. After hitting an escape pod and crashing its thrusters, a MS stick and an escape pod just floated there, desperately broadcasting a distress signal. I don't know how long later, Li Ping woke up from the coma, the helmet mask was smashed, and there were blood droplets floating in the cockpit. Recalling the method of dealing with this kind of weightlessness taught in the school, Li Ping carefully avoided the glass fragments, and found a small oxygen cylinder and diving goggles for underwater escape from the emergency survival supplies under the seat. After wearing it, quickly bandage the wound at the corner of the eye. With the helmet, the flotsam in the cockpit is slowly collected, which is troublesome whether it is sucked into the air pipe or seeped into the dashboard. X303 Sacred Shield, X105 Strike, please reply, X303. The electromagnetic interference in the wreckage area gradually weakened, and the radio can already receive the signal. This is the Holy Shield, and now return to sail. Li Ping connected the communication of the Archangel. It's great that you're all right, please look for the assault by the way. There are too many wrecks around, and the Archangel cannot locate the location of the assault. Second Lieutenant Bucky Lulu on the other end of the communicator breathed a sigh of relief. Learn. Here is the X-105 attack, Kira Yamato, I need some help here. The still existing radio interference made Kira's voice sound a little distorted. The body is damaged? Priority is given to checking the airtightness of the cockpit. No, there is one that I don't know how to deal with. No, there are 2 things that I don't know how to deal with. Kira's tone was quite tangled. What? I'll be right here. Li Ping locked the signal source, and only used the attitude adjustment nozzle to slowly move the body over. It's really hard to deal with. Appearing in front of Li Ping was a badly damaged Jean and an escape pod whose propeller was smashed and leaked. Prioritize the escape pod, you take it back to the Archangel. Let Captain Flag interrogate that ash wolf, I need a way to open the Jean's cockpit from the outside. It's too dangerous to have the captive back on the ship in the MS. But Lieutenant Li, that Jean is no longer capable of fighting. The vehicle will always have an extra bomb. Within 2 minutes, Ashwolf told Jean's emergency method to open the door. Michelle might still be alive, at least for now. There's no such thing as the Polish chrysanthemum on this ship. If you surrender honestly, at least now, Michelle and herself can survive on this. I hope you can confirm the integrity of the driver's uniform before opening the hatch. Captain Flagg just pretended not to hear. Brother, how do you want us to see through the armor plate? Li Ping stopped the mobile suit next to Jean, and Sacred Shield's hands tightly grasped the wreckage of Jean. Li Ping tied 2 safety ropes and a survival cable around his waist, and floated towards Jean. I found the emergency opening handle that Aslan said, and opened Jean's cockpit. Dodging the jet of air, Li Ping raised his gun and dodged in front of Jean's cockpit. All I saw was a driver with his head down and motionless. Are you still in a coma? Li Ping cautiously entered the cockpit, unfastened Michelle's seat belt, and slowly pushed him out of the cockpit. Then he tied Michelle with a survival cable, slowly floated back to the Holy Shield, and tied Michelle to the left palm of the Holy Shield. After a while, the attack that transported the damaged escape boat also returned, and helped Li Ping to push the Jean stick back together. Second Lieutenant Li, this Jean is so broken, why do you want to take it back? Kira looked at the Jean stick with all its limbs intact. I believe that the almighty Maddox should be able to use this torso and the spare parts for the assault Aegis to make a third Ms. Driver compatibility is not easy, right? Isn't there you? Karma Face Kira Yamato Limited Edition. JPG Zaya, you are trying to trick me. Li, you came back just in time, let's discuss the next route. Just handed over the unconscious Michelle to his subordinates, and handed over the MS to Sergeant Maddox, and the communication from the bridge was coming. Okay. Now we have 3 choices. First, fly directly to the Atlantic Federation Arza Sea base on the Moon. Second, directly drop to the Atlantic Federation headquarters in Alaska. And third, go to the Eurasian Federation's Alyatami base, and then head to Earth after supplies. Bucky Lulu prepared the route map a little earlier. If you fly to the Moon, from the current position, if you accelerate to the greatest extent, it will take 12 days in the past, and if you fly to Alaska, it will take 16 days. The food supply on the ship may not be enough. After all, we had to accept dozens of orb refugees on board, and the ship's material collection work has not been completed. It is expected that if those civilians can follow our instructions, the ship's food should last for 10 days, but fresh water can only last for 13 days. Speaking of which, Bucky Lulu's expression is not very good looking. If you boil the second-grade water to drink, you should be able to last for another 3 days. But during this period, you can't take a bath, you can't use the flush toilet, use a wet towel for washing your face, and use toothpaste for brushing your teeth. Save as much as possible. Dripping. I don't think anyone wants to drink Class 3 water, added Captain Ramias. Secondary water, that is, uncontaminated domestic water, such as the water used to wash the face and flush the toilet. This Archangel has an artificial gravity area. Civilians are now living in the dormitory in the gravity area, and the toilets are flush toilets. And a separate shower room. The tertiary water is the secondary filtered water, which is mainly used in the cooling system, and the source is purified urine, purified bath water, etc. Of course, under normal circumstances, the cooling system of the battleship is also filled with secondary water. For example, the Archangel, which has just set sail, doesn't have that much tertiary water for you at all. But the famous cruiser team is waiting outside, and there is no way to accelerate carelessly. As long as it is exposed, the cruiser guy will catch up, and the acceleration performance of the NASCAR class is not bad. Just rely on the 4 of us. It is very reluctant to start the battleship with more than a dozen people, and the battle is completely nonsense. Captain Flagg spread his hands. That's why I propose to change the road to the Altames base. It only takes 2 days from here. Second Lieutenant Bakerura gestured the route to Altames. You don't need too much acceleration, you only need to adjust the heading and accelerate for a short time, and you can arrive by coasting. I don't recommend entering the Artemis base. Li Ping actually felt that going to Artemis would be better than going to the moon if everyone was thirsty for 3 days. On the one hand, we have not yet entered the combat sequence of the coalition forces, and on the other hand, this ship and its carrier-based aircraft are highly classified by the Atlantic Federation. It is difficult for www.uuganshu.com to guarantee that the Eurasian Federation will not take this ship into account. The ship is buckled. The last thing is. Li Ping sighed. How many times has the Atlantic Federation sold the Eurasian Federation? Don't you have any trouble as Atlantic Federation officers? With such an opportunity to pit the Atlantic Federation, will the people of the Eurasian Federation give up? And the newest special ships produced by the Atlantic Federation in neutral countries and the only 2 MSS of the Earth Army. If we don't disappear, we have to get the data, right? By then we'll be shot like Alaska. That's right. The remaining 3 bowed their heads and sighed at the same time. Then what should we do? Is it possible to surrender? Let's go this way. Li Ping drew a curve on the star map. Inertia to Artemis, but do not enter the fortress of the Eurasian Federation, turn here, go to the wreck belt. We fetch water and supplies here. Li Ping pointed to a large circular wreck, the wreck of Junius 7. In a place like this, don't worry about the radiation problem. At that time, the coalition army used fusion bombs, and there was almost no radiation residue. Li Ping thought that these people were worried about the water source. It's not the radiation issue, it's the date issue. What? Captain Flagg pulls up a morning's news on his phone. Lux Klein has set off from today to go to Junius 7 to prepare for the 1-year anniversary ceremony of Scarlet Valentine's Day. The news is the news on January 24th, and today is January 25th. Calculate the time. Her ship should arrive at Junius 7 at about the same time as ours. But it looks like that eldest lady didn't bring a frigate this time. Captain Flagg added immediately. Please don't put this kind of information at the end and say okay. Bucky Lulu almost choked to death by the desperation of the tuko that instantly surged up from her chest and got stuck in her throat. And did the news say she brought a frigate? Although she is the daughter of the speaker, she doesn't have the right to mobilize the army to her, right? Captain Flagg touched his chin, and he wasn't quite sure whether the lax had an fleet. It feels embarrassing whether she wears it or not. With it, her identity is unreasonable. After all, she is just a popular singer, regardless of her identity as the speaker's daughter. This ceremony is also her private action, during the war. There is no reason to mobilize military escorts. But if you don't bring it, aren't they afraid that the Allied forces will perform Lux's misfortune over Junius 7 on Valentine's Day? Hello? Do you want the Allied army to break out into a full-scale war? Isn't it because the speaker advocates peace talks? Brother, the coalition military used nuclear bombs to bomb the colony satellites, killing 240,000 civilians, and then dropped neutron jammers. The famine and chaos caused by the lack of energy on the Earth, hundreds of millions of people died in less than a year. When are you? Have the illusion that this is not a total war. Li Ping looked at Captain Flagg strangely. And it's not like you don't know what the virtues of those chrysanthemum monsters are. What can't they do? Hey, don't talk nonsense like this. Who knows if there are any of their people on this ship? Captain Ramius turned his head nervously and looked at the surrounding environment. There were only 4 of them in the conference room. Look, is this still the normal atmosphere of the army? Can't you tell me that group of chrysanthemum monsters? Cable dogs, chrysanthemum monsters are monstrous. It made the soldiers of the Allied forces complain. Li Ping pointed, anyway, he ran away after the mission was over. I'm on my way, Come and catch me. The other three sighed while holding their foreheads. Even soldiers like Bucky Lulu, who have been in the army for generations, from orthodox to a little pedantic, have a headache for those chrysanthemum monsters. It is conceivable how much blue cosmos penetrates the army. Disgusting. Anyway, let's do this first, pass by Artemis and turn to the gravel belt. If the ZAFT army has a fleet, we will collect materials in the corners and the wreckage of the ships there. If there is no fleet, we will collect materials. Junius 7's supplies. Although I am sorry to disturb the peace of the deceased, the priority is to keep more than 100 people on our ship alive. Captain Ramius made up his mind. At the same time, in the hangar, the smashed escape boat was finally opened by the technical means, oversized hydraulic pliers and welding gun, by the Sergeant Maddock. Fortunately, there were no dead people in the escape boat. There were only a few unlucky who didn't buckle their seat belts on impact and smashed their heads. Frey. Kira got off the Storm and saw a girl with red hair and a pink skirt. You're that Sai's friend. Where is this place? Why are you here? The refugee shelter is completed, and the various parts of the ship are fixed. Jackie Tenamra, who was transferred to the CIC controller, reported to Captain Ramius. Very good, Second Lieutenant Bucky Lulu. The decoy bomb is ready to be launched. Line, Marine Lapallis to the lunar surface. At the same time, the main engine is ejected, the course is corrected, the emergency acceleration, the course, the Marine Lapallis Artemis Junius 7. The decoy bomb is set and loaded. Decoy bombs fired. Main engine jet. Second Lieutenant Bucky Lulu and Captain Ramius said almost simultaneously. The rest is up to luck. Kirakan, let's debug the body. Will the battle still start? Kreutzer is an excellent hunter. He knows very well that for the Archangel, which is on an emergency voyage and has not been replenished, we have few options. So he will definitely cast a good net in that place. Lee Pingla drifting to the hangar with Kira. The acceleration performance of the Nazca class is no worse than that of the Archangel. As long as you find the right direction, the Archangel will be caught up sooner or later, and the speed of the Archangel will not be able to shake off the Nazca class, so the battle is almost inevitable. Yo, Lieutenant Lee and Second Lieutenant Yamato, who has the fastest upgrade in history. Captain Flag was already in the hangar. I borrowed some parts from your raid, I hope you don't mind. There are only 3 carrier-based aircraft on this ship, and I think my Zero needs to be upgraded. No. Why would you mind, but the second lieutenant is. Kira, who was usually gentle, was a little helpless. The lowest rank for a combined fighter jet or MA is a second lieutenant, so as a temporary carrier pilot of the Archangel, you have been promoted from a civilian to a second lieutenant at an astonishing speed in one day. Captain Flag, your body has been basically repaired and transformed, but the new equipment can't guarantee the accuracy of the first launch. You need to proofread it yourself during the battle. CAO Maddock floated over. Also, because it is a temporary modification, you must pay attention to those parts not to be hit, and they will explode. So once they are hit, they must be discarded in time. I can't see it even in the cockpit. So I installed the Earth method for you. Colonel Maddock pointed to the modified Mobius Zero with a thumbs up. UU reading www.uuganshu.com soldered 4 new cameras to your body, specially designed to observe the status of additional equipment. Welding. Kira and Li Ping followed the thumbs of Colonel Murdoch, and they both cried at the current Mobius Zero, ugly. 2 beam pistols prepared for assault equipment were welded on both sides of the fuselage. In order to power these 2 pistols, 2 series reserve batteries were welded at the bottom of the midrear fuselage of the Mobius Zero. Then connect the 2 with an energy cable end. A hole was opened in the nose of the aircraft, and a 120 mm anti-ship Gatling on the assault gun pack was inserted. 3 pylons are welded on each of the 4 floating wire-controlled gun barrels, and 2 missiles used by Mobius are hung on each pylon. I originally wanted to equip her with a high-frequency pulse cannon called Yahoo, but I didn't have time to perform such a big operation on the Zero, and I didn't have a spare backpack for the gun battle, so I had to change it temporarily. Maduo Caok scratched his head a little embarrassedly. Kira's eyes were sharp, and he saw the transformation plan displayed on the tablet computer in the hands of Colonel Maddock. The above shows that the modified Mobius Zero lost the barrel that could be released. The barrel was completely fixed on the fuselage, and was transformed into a new type of component with a high-frequency pulse gun Yahoo at the front. A set of thrusters is added to the rear, and 6 sets of batteries are added to the Zero fuselage to power a total of 4 high-frequency pulse guns and 2 beam rifles mounted under the fuselage. 120mm Gatling and multiple 350mm anti-ship missiles are mounted on both sides of the fuselage. With the little brain of Kirana's super adjuster, he can instantly simulate the end of the attack and the attack during the Zero-style encounter. I said. Then what is the purpose of your MS? Kira repeated these words over and over in her mind.